In a quiet suburban neighborhood on the edge of a small town, 7-year-old Emily lived with her mother, Sarah, in a modest apartment building. Life hadn't been easy for them since Emily's father left years ago, but Sarah worked 2 jobs to keep food on the table and a roof over their heads. Lately, though, Sarah had started dating a man named Mark, who seemed charming at first. He brought flowers, took them out for ice cream, and promised to take care of them. Emily liked him initially because he made her mom smile again. But that changed quickly. Mark moved in after just a few months, and the smiles faded. He drank too much, yelled over nothing, and soon the yelling turned to shoving. Emily would hide in her closet, covering her ears as she heard crashes and cries from the living room. Sarah always told her it was an accident, that Mark was sorry, and that things would get better. But they didn't. One evening, after Mark lost his job, he came home furious. He accused Sarah of not supporting him enough, and the argument escalated fast. Emily peeked from her bedroom door and saw him grab Sarah's arm hard, twisting it until she yelped in pain. Then he slapped her across the face, sending her stumbling into the wall. Emily's heart pounded like a drum. She was small, but she remembered stories her mom told her once, about how some people who looked scary on the outside were actually protectors. Sarah had pointed out a group of bikers at a local diner one day, saying, "Those guys might look tough, but I've heard they help kids in trouble." Emily didn't understand fully then, but now, in this moment of terror, it clicked. As Mark raised his fist again, Sarah locked eyes with Emily through the crack in the door and mouthed, "Run. Get help." Emily bolted. She dashed out the back door of the apartment, her little legs pumping as fast as they could. Tears streamed down her face, blurring her vision, but she knew the way to the main road where the old roadside bar was. That's where she had seen those big motorcycles parked sometimes. The bar was just a block away, across a gravel lot. She ran barefoot, ignoring the sharp stones biting her feet, her pajamas flapping in the cool night air. Screams echoed behind her from the apartment, her mom's voice pleading, then a thud. Bursting into the parking lot, Emily spotted them, a dozen burly men in leather vests, covered in tattoos, standing around gleaming Harleys. They were laughing, smoking, sharing stories after a long ride. The roar of engines had just quieted as they settled in for drinks. Emily didn't hesitate. She ran straight into the group, collapsing at the feet of the biggest one, a man with a long beard and arms like tree trunks, whose vest read, "Thunder Road MC." "Please," she sobbed, grabbing his pant leg. "They're beating my mama. Help her. Please, they're hurting her bad." The laughter stopped instantly. All eyes turned to the tiny girl, disheveled and crying hysterically. The big man, whose road name was Bear, knelt down immediately, his rough face softening. "Hey, little one, calm down. Who's hurting your mama? Where?" Emily pointed back toward the apartments, barely able to speak through hiccups. My mom's boyfriend. He's hitting her. She's screaming. Please, you gotta come." The other bikers exchanged glances. They weren't an outlaw gang, they were a club of veterans and blue-collar guys who rode for freedom and brotherhood. But many had families, and a few had seen domestic hell up close. Bear stood up, his voice booming. "Boys, we got a situation. Kid says her mom's getting beat. Who's with me?" Every single one raised a hand or nodded. No questions about getting involved, no hesitation. They knew what it was like to see the vulnerable suffer. One of them, a guy called Hawk with a scarred face, scooped Emily up gently. "We'll take care of it, sweetheart. You stay right here with Tiny." He handed her to another massive biker who looked intimidating but spoke softly. Engines roared to life as 10 bikes thundered out of the lot, following Emily's frantic directions. Bear led the pack, his mind racing. He'd lost a sister to an abusive husband years ago and vowed never to stand by again. This was their chance to make a difference. As they pulled up to the apartment building, shouts and cries spilled out from an open window on the second floor. The bikers dismounted in unison, a wall of leather and muscle storming up the stairs. The door to the apartment was ajar when the bikers arrived. Inside, chaos, furniture overturned, Sarah cowering in the corner with a split lip and bruises blooming on her arms, while Mark loomed over her, fist cocked for another blow. He turned at the thunderous footsteps, his alcohol-fueled rage turning to confusion, then fear, as a dozen huge men filled the doorway. "What the hell?" Mark started, but Bear's voice cut him off like a knife. "Step away from the lady. Now." The authority in Bear's tone made Mark freeze. He was big himself, but against this group. No chance. The other bikers fanned out, blocking any escape. Hawk stepped forward, eyes cold. "We heard you like hitting women. That true?" Mark stammered, trying to bluster. "This is none of your business. Get out before I call the cops." Bear laughed, a deep rumble. "Go ahead. Call M. We'll wait." He glanced at Sarah, who was trembling but nodding gratefully. One biker, a former Marine named Doc, knelt beside her. "Ma'am, you okay? We got you now." Sarah whispered, "Thank you," tears mixing with blood on her cheek. Emily, who had been brought up by Tiny, peeked from the hallway. Seeing her mom safe, she ran to her, burying her face in Sarah's side. Mark lunged toward them instinctively, but two bikers grabbed him instantly, pinning his arms without effort. "You touch that kid or her mom again, and you'll deal with us," Bear growled, inches from Mark's face. "But tonight, we're doing this right." Someone had already dialed 911. Sirens wailed in the distance within minutes. The police arrived to find the scene secured, Mark restrained but unharmed, Sarah and Emily protected by a circle of bikers. The officers knew the club, they weren't troublemakers, they even helped with charity runs. Explanations were given, statements taken. Mark was cuffed and led away, sputtering threats that fell on deaf ears. As the cops wrapped up, Bear turned to Sarah. "You and the little one need a safe place tonight?" Sarah nodded weakly. The club arranged it, a couple of the old ladies, the wives and girlfriends, came to pick them up, taking them to a member's spare house. Over the next weeks, the bikers didn't just walk away. They checked in regularly. Bear brought Emily a tiny leather vest with "Thunder Road Princess" patched on it. They fixed up the apartment, installed better locks, even escorted Sarah to file a restraining order. Word spread in the town. People who once crossed the street to avoid the bikers now waved hello. Sarah got counseling through a contact the club had, and she started rebuilding her life, stronger than before. Emily, once shy and fearful, blossomed. She rode on the back of Bear's bike during safe outings, laughing as the wind whipped her hair. Months later, at a club barbecue, Emily stood on a picnic table and announced to everyone, "These are my guardians now." The tough men cheered, some wiping discreet eyes. What started as a desperate cry for help turned into a new family. The bikers had confronted evil not with violence, but with overwhelming presence and heart. They showed that real strength protects the weak. And in that small town, no one ever doubted again what those scary bikers would do for a child in need. They left everyone stunned, not by rage, but by compassion that changed lives forever.